right, all right, all right.
Hello.
Welcome back to the Blockument. Crypto education through everyday conversations. Yeah, so we're trying out a new thing today. We're going to see, we're upping our technology game.
Yeah,
so
we're
I'm
getting
a little sidetracked.
fancy
Fancy. Today's show is pre-recorded, just so you know. But my name is Nate Talbot. I am the executive director of Detroit Blockchain Center, and to my right,
I am Ashlee Rose. I am your everyday gal. I'm a mother and an online reseller, and I'm on this journey to figure out what all of this crypto, Bitcoin, blockchain stuff is about.
All right.
Yeah.
Every week, or every show, you get so much smarter and smarter and smarter with it all.
Yes.
Well, give me a summary. What's crypto and blockchain stuff all about in general? Give me your elevator pitch.
Oh, throwing a curveball at me. What is it all about? Well, there's so many answers here. Okay, blockchain is about cryptograph, like hashed ledgers. So they're like more secure ledgers. This is a tough question.
So here's the first thing. When I was still learning, when I was starting to get into the social scene, right? I had been doing some swing trading. I was even doing consulting for some businesses at that point around blockchain and stuff, but I wasn't really in the social scene. I definitely wasn't teaching, right?
Okay.
One of the things that drove me to want to teach and educate was I would listen to people who knew what they were talking about. Like they knew way more than me, especially at that point. And those are the type of answers I would hear. I would either hear somebody be like, yeah, so like, what is Bitcoin? And I'd be like, well, you see, there's this Byzantine general, right? It's a general's problem. It's a computer science problem. And they got that far in, everybody's eyes were glazed over. Or they would go, well, see, cryptographic proof, you got to understand cryptography. Cryptographic proofs are, and you have these Schnorr signatures, and it's like, you're
I'm like, oh no.
I
guess like it would be just like solving problems. I don't know.
It could, but that's a much better answer already, because at least people get what solving problems means. They can ask more questions. When you say, see, there's these Byzantine generals, they're like, I don't even know what the hell you're talking about. I'm not even going to ask more questions.
Yeah.
Cool. It's garbage.
Yeah.
Right. So my advice as anybody is trying to explain, because if you're in this world, eventually somebody you work with, somebody in your family, one of your friends, somebody's going to say like, what is that? Why are you even doing it?
Yeah.
You're going to you don't have to, but you're going to find yourself in a situation where you maybe want to explain yourself or what you're doing. And my recommendation is just keep it stupid simple. You don't have to sound smart or use like these keywords that, the buzzwords that everybody uses. There's these smart contracts that it's just keep it simple.
So what would you say?
Depends on what the exact question was. Ask me the question.
What is crypto and Bitcoin and blockchain all about?
It's about being able to interact with somebody else without having to ask permission.
Yeah, that's a good one. Being able to interact with somebody else without having to ask permission.
Boom.
Yeah, because I was going to say like freedom, but I didn't know.
Well, and that's fine. It's like, don't treat it different than any other subject, right? If I said, what are text messages? You're not going to be like, well, you see, there's this satellites with these mobile networks, right? With all this advanced, you're not doing that.
Yeah.
You're like,
a way to communicate.
It's a way to communicate. You ever wrote somebody a letter?
Phone.
Now imagine you did it without having paper.
Yeah.
Done, right?
Yeah.
Don't, even if you know it, and the more you know, the worse it becomes, especially in that middle ground.
Yeah.
I won't go off on too many tangents here, but keep it keep it simple. And, save the buzzwords for, a buzzword crowd. When you're at like a Bitcoin or crypto meetup, an Ethereum meetup, then you can start talking the language, the insider language. It's true with anything, right?
Yeah.
If you're in finance, you talk, oh, well, we did a short on some puts and then decided to flip and go long. And most people are like, what? You know what I mean? Or if you're in any kind of field, they'll get technical.
Yeah.
No need for that. Just keep it simple.
Yep.
But we are pre-recorded to get back on. So we like to let everybody know, help give the timestamp proof of information on when we're recording and releasing these shows. So in the future, at least the earliest date we could have done it. So we do that using the block height.
Yep. Mempool.space.
Give it to us. Where are we at?
All right. Well, we are.
You know what?
Oh, that. What?
Don't do that yet. Can you? Let's flex our new technology. Can you bring us up on screen and we'll show as you tell.
And the silly part is this is pre-recorded, so it's probably not going to be new to you, our viewers. You're like, this is something we've seen before. Yeah,
we've talked about this. But this also helps. This is the first time we've really done it, right? Yeah. So here we are.
Well, thank you.
We're at mempool.space. This is what we're looking at every time we talk about it. And we are at which block now?
So we're at block number 793,906.
All right. And so we'll open that up and tell us about it.
So the block size is 1.95 megabytes, which consists of 2,665 transactions.
Okay.
Let's see here. The total subsidies and fees that were earned in this block are 166,285 USD, which equals 6.452 Bitcoin.
It's interesting. You got 285. We got 279 here. So I wonder if there's a difference in price feed.
Really? Interesting.
Yep.
I'm reading off of my cell phone here in front of me.
Yep.
So it's actually different than what you guys are looking at, but it should be the same.
All the other information is the same.
So I have the miner that won as via BTC. Is that
via BTC? Yep.
That's so interesting. I wonder what the difference here, because they got the same block number.
It is the same block number. We've talked about this a little bit on different shows. Is that all? Yeah. Is that all our details before I go into it?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right. So we talked before about. We talked a little bit in a previous show. I think it was episode 18. Our first version of this show, which is what is crypto useful, right? The part one. Show we talked about oracles. Now this isn't an oracle per se, but what the block does, the Bitcoin blockchain, right? All it knows is this is the subsidy, 6.452 Bitcoin. That's all the Bitcoin blockchain knows. It doesn't care about the dollar value of anything, right? It's Bitcoin. It's a Bitcoin world. You pay your fees in Bitcoin, but because we're not on a Bitcoin standard when it comes to unit of account. We don't price things in Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. Well, general society doesn't price things in Bitcoin. So what does that mean to most people? 6.452 Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Right? And so what mempool.space will do, or any block explorer that you use, it will go pull an Oracle, not really an Oracle feed, but it'll pull from someplace, an exchange, maybe Kraken, Coinbase, someplace, or a few exchanges. Maybe it taps into CoinMarketCap or something, and it'll pull an aggregate price. And so what could be happening, I'm not sure exactly what's happening here, why we have two different price feeds.
Yeah.
But maybe on my display when I pulled it up, wherever it's pulling it from, I'll just make something up. Maybe mine's pulling it from Kraken, and that's the price on Kraken.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, it decided to pull from Coinbase on yours, and there's going to be a little bit of a spread. And that gets into arbitrage and sort of how trading and things work, which we won't get into. But if you're said, what's this arbitrage?
Yeah.
Hit us up on Twitter or something and ask us so we can make it a show.
That's right.
So that's why you would see a different price feed. The concerning part, and why I'm not concerned about it, the concerning part is if we're looking at the exact same block, but like the subsidy and fee is different.
Right.
Right? Or like if any other of the data is different.
Yeah.
because that lives on chain.
Yeah.
But the dollar fees don't live on chain. These are interpretations pulled from exchanges
Okay.
or other price aggregators. But now you get to see why we look at mempool.space. This is what we're looking at. This is what you can see. Here's the actual block with all the little transactions in it. So go check out the website, explore. It can be interesting.
Yeah, super cool.
What are we talking about today?
Today we have a couple more coins and tokens to kind of dive into and see what problems do they solve, do they solve a problem, and potentially how.
All right. What problems do they solve?
Yeah, what are they claiming?
What's my default answer?
To line their pockets.
To line people's pockets.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think if you're serious in this space, I don't care what your role is, developer, speculator, trader, marketer, you're building some kind of business on top of it. Regardless if you're just an enthusiast, if you're going to be honest with yourself about any industry, you got to be honest about the industry. Mm-hmm. And just like if I was AOL or Yahoo or Google in the early days of popularizing email, mm-hmm. you couldn't be an email provider without admitting, all right, there's hell of a lot of spam.
Yeah.
Like scammers have found a way to take this service that is useful, but the usefulness gets drowned out by the scam. Because it makes it so much easier. The scammers literally used to have to like spend money on postage, paper, envelopes, sending out Nigerian prince type schemes. Now they can do it with a click of a button.
Yeah.
Right? And if they weren't serious about that attempt or that reality, then email would be garbage today. Mm-hmm. And I feel the same way about crypto. There are currently, if we go to CoinGecko.com, they list just under. I think they only list 9,999 because they never updated the number here to read 5-digit numbers.
Yeah.
There's someplace in the neighborhood of 26,000 different listed tokens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's scam. A lot of them are going to be scam. Another huge section are just going to be bad ideas.
Yeah.
It's just all smoke and mirrors. But back to the email point, just real quick before we dive deep in, if email service providers did not take spam serious, mm-hmm. we might not have proof of work, because proof of work was invented to solve the spam problem in email.
For real?
So fun fact.
Yeah.
Proof of work was not invented for Bitcoin, right? It was invented well before.
Wow. And
that was sort of one of Adam Back's original contributions was utilizing proof of work in a electronic money type system, which is where Satoshi got the idea from. Satoshi, whoever they are, did not invent anything. He didn't invent, or they didn't invent blockchain. They didn't invent proof of work. They didn't invent any of it. They didn't invent peer-to-peer. They didn't invent social decentralization.
Wow.
None of it.
They just like put it all together.
Satoshi was the first one to just be like, hey, look at all these great ideas. What if he moves them together?
Yeah.
That was the innovation of Bitcoin. And most people don't get, I was just on Twitter not too long, can't remember the day, but somebody honestly just asked like something basic about Bitcoin. I can't remember the exact question. And every response, while I give best intention for every response, they were all so wrong. He had like what he was like, the whoever posted was like, what is a node? What's the purpose of a node? And you're like, well, that's where the decentralization comes in, or that's where this and that's it. They were all wrong, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, you can, like a node. I'll ask you real quick, and then we'll get into to the coins and stuff, but like what is in Bitcoin, what purpose does a node serve? A regular node and not a miner, just a node.
I think validating the transaction.
That's not really true.
No.
Validating it for what purpose?
In my defense, I did ask this question on YouTube, and I'm eagerly awaiting a response on it. I would have had the answer.
Maybe we'll clip this. I keep missing that. So, what is a node? A node, you're sort of right, but you have to be more clear. A node, if you run your own node, and why it's important, you run.
Is it a record of account?
Well, no, that's the blockchain.
Okay.
Is.
Oh, yes. Okay. It's where you download. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I'm interested to see what you're getting, because you're sort of leading there.
It's you download the blockchain and it sits on your node.
It sits on your computer, which is the node, right? For what purpose?
So that you can. It's open source, so you can check if somebody like double spent or.
So who can check?
I can check.
That's all it does.
Yeah.
You're not verifying the network to make sure a miner didn't cheat that somehow then helps the rest of the network directly. It's a selfish. Running your node that's not mining is a selfish act, because we talked about game theory. Mm-hmm. And game theory is about don't trust, verify for Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. I don't trust anything. If you said you sending me some Bitcoin, I sent it. All right. I look at my wallet and it says confirmed. But if my wallet is not using my own node as a reference, mm-hmm. I don't trust it. If it's from mempool.space, like mm-hmm. right now I'm plugged into mempool.space, it's giving me all this information about the blocks. Mm-hmm. Why should I trust any of this information? Because mempool.space says it? I have to trust them, that they're not lying to me about what this block is.
Right.
But what I could do if I ran my own node mm-hmm. is I could still utilize, because mempool.space is open source, mm-hmm. I can say, look, I could download the software of mempool.space and say, don't pull from mempool.space, the organization, pull from my node. Show me this data that my node says is true.
Yeah.
Because that's the only thing I trust.
Yeah.
And then when I see something that my node says this isn't right, mm-hmm. I'm ignoring it. I don't care what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
I'm ignoring it. And then my node is constantly talking to other nodes, just sort of looking, what are you trusting? What do you trust? What's the longest chain? You think that's the longest chain? I think this is the longest chain. Mm-hmm. Well, just because you say it's the longest chain, I'm not going to believe it. I'm going to wait until other nodes. Now, if 2/3 or 51% of all the nodes that mine node talks to mm-hmm. all say like, hey, we all think this is the longest chain, then I'm going to be like, well, consensus says that's the longest chain.
Yeah.
I need to update my information.
Right.
Right. But I'm not really just trusting a single source. I'm using all these randomized sources. So what does a node do? It tells you that what your blockchain copy says, mm-hmm. which is the whole point of all this. Mm-hmm. I don't need to trust a middle party. I don't need to trust a bank or somebody else or mempool.space. I'm trusting my own record. Mm-hmm. That's a node. That's what this is. And the episode. Oh, wait, that's not what the episode is about.
I know.
My bad.
Wait.
So now that we know what a node is, what are we verifying? And the same is true like with Ethereum, even though they're using proof of stake. If you're running a non-staking node, you're doing the exact same thing. You're just not trusting the validators off rip. Right?
Yeah.
You're like, I don't believe the validator on this, so I think that's a valid transaction. So as far as I'm concerned, until a majority of the network tells me otherwise, I'm rolling with this story. And part of that is talking about what these coins are and are they useful.
Yeah, but now I got to write down another question that we're going to talk on the block notes because it's off topic.
All right.
Okay. But let's see.
Block notes is our after show that airs on YouTube a week after the show airs. So
yeah, I've already got 2 questions written down.
Check it out.
That are off topic that I have to ask you that they're burning inside.
All right.
But okay, let's go to the first one here.
So real quick as a recap though.
Yep.
We're talking about coin. Why are we talking about this? What's the purpose?
To see if they solve problems, and also to kind of like in real time do our own research and maybe like see how we do that or get critiques from people in the audience or
Right.
just kind of learning together.
Right. This is not financial advice. We're not telling you what coins work, what coins don't work. We're not telling you what coins are good prices and bad prices and good buys and bad buys. We're literally just looking at if in my uneducated, unqualified, unreliable opinion, right, is there any utility? Do not go make financial decisions based off anything I'm about to say. And in full disclosure, if we talk about something, I will announce whether I have or have ever owned it. That way people can decide if I have bias and whether I support or don't support something.
And utility is referring to whether it solves a problem and like how it can be used, correct?
Yeah, we're defining utility for this episode is there a potential problem? Maybe it does or doesn't. Maybe it's not good at solving that problem. That's not what we're addressing. We're just addressing the problem it's trying to solve is even worth solving. Right? So just because I say, yeah, it's worth solving doesn't mean I think that they're doing the right thing to solve it.
Right.
Right? We're not doing a full in-depth breakdown. All right, cool. Quick question for you before you start. What problem does Ethereum solve? We talked about this on the first one.
Oh, I was actually going to ask you to recap that for me, but
I'll recap Ethereum if you recap Bitcoin.
Okay, Bitcoin. Well, I want to attempt to do the. I want to challenge myself to attempt it, but I will do Bitcoin also. Well, first I'm going to say Bitcoin because I'm confident in my answer. It solves the retaining value problem.
Yep.
And then, so yes, that's good. I can move on to Ethereum.
I can run with that.
Okay, and then Ethereum solves. I want to say smart contracts, like the problem of. But then that's like what are smart contracts,
which you can check out our smart contract episode to find out. But
yes,
there it is, and
so
applause it.
Yes, thank you. Giving me more time to get my thoughts together.
Yeah, what problem does Ethereum solve?
Transacting faster.
Well, it transacts faster than Bitcoin. Whether or not that's good or not, or a problem that need to be solved, I think is subjective. There are other chains that transact faster than Ethereum.
Maybe being able to do other things outside of value, holding on to value. I don't know. Go ahead.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Yeah, I think
I wanted to challenge
close.
myself, and here we go.
Historically, Bitcoin is single focused. By the time the listener listens to this episode, maybe Bitcoin does way more or even less, right? But historically, Bitcoin solves the problem, as you said, of retaining value, preserving your wealth.
Preserving your wealth. For some reason, I couldn't. That phrase slipped.
Ethereum takes it a step further and say, yeah, we agree that's very important, but we think there should be other things that are one of the ways Bitcoin preserves wealth is through its immutable, permissionless, trustless nature, right?
Doesn't, wait.
It's immutable. It's not easily changed. It's censorship resistant. Even if it does get changed, it's not the change. It's hard to censor the transactions.
And you're talking about
Bitcoin right now.
Oh, okay.
But these are all traits Ethereum also has, right?
Okay.
And aims to do. It's transparent. Anybody can see it, right? So anybody can use it. Anybody can see it. Nobody can stop. This is part of the permissionlessness. Nobody can stop you from using it. And Bitcoin says that's pretty much good for money. Hard base layer money.
Yes.
Right? Like gold type money. Ethereum's like, yeah, that's all useful. We agree. But we also think there are other things that would benefit from being censorship resistant and open, transparent, permissionless. And they think like finance is one of the biggest examples of that. So money is just money. And go check out our Money versus Finance episode to get an in-depth on that.
Yeah.
Ethereum says finance is important, right? Like if I want to lend or borrow money.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's important. You can't do that on Bitcoin. Not on layer 1 Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
Maybe there's a layer 2, at least at the time of at least at this block height.
Yeah.
You can't do that on Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But you can do that on Ethereum, right? And so it allows you to do more with that concept, right? And that's a real problem. Like, how do you do lending without having to, if I want to borrow you money, if I want to borrow you money, if I want to lend you money.
I understood what you were saying, though.
I need some kind of guarantee. I need an enforcement mechanism to make sure I'm going to get the money back.
Yeah, and that's where this.
That's where basically I use a bank. Well, in traditional world, I'll use a bank or the government, right, will come and help enforce that right through contracts. That's why we have contracts and whatnot. So the question is, how can I do lending and borrowing without needing a bank or a government or somebody in the middle between us? Because as soon as we put somebody in the middle, the bank is like, I'm going to help you enforce this loan you're going to give them, but I don't like something about Ashlee.
Yeah.
So therefore, I'm not going to allow you to do it. And I'm like, no, I'm willing to take that risk. I'm like, no, we think it's best you don't take that risk. So no, you can't take that risk.
Yeah.
Right? That's a problem.
That's needing permission.
Yeah. So I want to cut that out and be able to evaluate my own risk reward. But how do I do that still in a trustless way? Because the money's got to sit in some pool somewhere, right?
Right.
And that's the problem. That's one of the problems Ethereum and smart contract platforms attempt to solve.
Permissionless, trustless finance?
Yeah.
Okay.
And finance is just the games you play with money.
But there's more that it does, right? Like
there's way more that it does. There's a lot more that it can do.
So it's like a hard question to answer.
Well, it's like, are some things, so you have NFTs, right?
Right.
And we're not going to be an NFT episode. I don't want to go listen to the first episode to get more details on the problems Ethereum
Even though your
solves.
shirt says NFTs, but whatever.
Even though, well, right. Bitcoin, NFTs, all that. The NFTs as monkey pictures, as it's commonly referred to these days, do you need censorship resistant, permissionless, peer-to-peer monkey picture trading? Some people would be like, hell yeah. I don't know how censorship resistant. I don't know if I need that same level of confidence that I need in my wealth preservation with my hobbyist Pokemon picture.
Right.
Right? Maybe you value it so high you do feel that way, and that's cool. I don't feel that way. You know what I mean? So that gets really subjective. So, but Ethereum says, well, it's not up to us to decide.
Right.
Run it.
Yeah.
And they designed a mechanism that if that's what you find valuable, do it.
Yeah. And let the market.
And the market will decide.
Yeah.
Right? So, and go listen to the last episode if you want more details on that. But rolling into that, what are we talking about today? Which ones?
Well, Cosmos, I don't know if I'm pronouncing
this. Take one at a time. Okay. Cosmos. Okay. All right. So, Cosmos is an altcoin, and as I've aptly defined, alternative to what? Alternative to Ethereum. So let's look it up here. We'll go on screen, and we'll pull up Cosmos.
We're going to use our fancy new technology.
We're using our fancy new technology. So as it gets pulled up, Cosmos is an alternative, but it's not an alternative where we're just going to do Ethereum and just change a couple parameters, right? They take an entirely different approach. And so there are a couple things on Cosmos that are really different. Cosmos, there's Cosmos the token, right? Which is really Cosmos Hub.
Oh, I actually did not know that.
All right. There's Cosmos. Cosmos is built off of this system called Tendermint, right? Tendermint SDK. And it's Cosmos SDK. It uses a Tendermint consensus protocol. And I'm not going to get too technical on it all. But as we scroll down, the main difference in how Cosmos relates to things is where Ethereum says, I'm going to build this universal platform that anybody then can build applications on top of. Think of Ethereum like an operating system. So like I'm on a Mac computer right now.
Okay.
So I'm using an iOS operating system. And then I'll have Photoshop sits on top of that iOS operating system. So I can use Photoshop or Word or Brave browser or whatever application, right?
Yeah.
It's built so it works on the iOS operating system.
Right.
Right. And I could have hundreds and hundreds of applications sit on my iOS operating system. But my iOS operating system now has to be robust enough to sort of handle all these different type of operations that are going on, right? It's running Photoshop, it's running Word, it's running my browser, it's running itself.
Yeah.
It's doing all these things.
Yeah.
And then when you go to a decentralized system, that becomes a real pull because the whole world, when you're talking about Ethereum, it's like having one iOS operating system that everybody's using. Not just my computer. Like if my computer crashes, the entire world's computer crashes.
Dang.
In an Ethereum type world.
Yeah.
Right? So it's very important that Ethereum takes security measures to make sure that no one application or user crashes the entire system.
Yeah.
Right? Which is why you have to pay gas fees. Right? That's one of the mechanisms because you're running these programs, and it's called Turing complete, which really just means you can do a loop. I can say, if this happens, then do this. If this doesn't happen, do whatever, right? That's just a regular if then. But maybe I want a loop. I want to say, look, as long as Ashlee has less than 10 ETH, do this operation, right? Whatever that is. Give her interest on something.
Okay.
Right? So what the system has to do is say, all right, does Ashlee have 10 ETH? No. All right, I'm going to give her some things. Now I got to check again. Does she have more than 10 ETH now? No. All right, I'm going to do it again.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's running a loop. Yeah, okay.
Now, what happens if when I make that code, we write that smart contract, what happens if I put an error, a mistake, write something wrong, where you could never, ever have 10 ETH? Right? I built the system somehow where you'll never, ever have 10 ETH. That code is going to run forever. That's called an infinite loop. That's a huge problem in computer science, right?
Okay.
Now, on a regular computer, on my computer, if I ran that, if some program I run, if I open it up and it runs an infinite loop, it'll eat up all my memory, all my RAM, and my computer will crash. And then I'll have to turn the computer off and hard restart it, which will clean the memory out and let me start again. And now I know don't open that application.
Yeah. That
works because it's just me who's affected.
Right.
What do you do when the entire financial system of the world, or there's billions and billions or $1 trillion or more dollars in the system?
Yeah.
And you write one smart contract, right? This irrelevant smart contract, not that anything you do would be irrelevant, but let's say you write an irrelevant smart contract. It could crash the entire financial system. Is that something you want to put all your eggs in there? No. So gas helps solve that problem, right? Because for you to run that operate, every time it loops, you pay gas.
Oh, so if you don't have enough to pay gas, then it will end the loop.
When you run out of gas, it kills the loop without killing the system. And that way there's a cost. Unless you have infinite money, you can't infinitely run a program.
Wow.
And this is why your gas fees get high, because if a smart contract's not written efficiently, or if it's running through a lot of different steps, you know,
so essentially you're
compiles.
Saying if somebody makes an error in the writing of their smart contract, it could be such a big error that it crashes your operating system.
It crashes the entire Ethereum network, or
until you run out of gas.
Until you run out of gas.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, then it won't crash anything because everybody will run out of gas. They'll run out of money before they run out of before it puts that much crash.
Yeah.
But you still have problems. And if you were in the 2020 through 2022-ish bull run, right? You've seen that with the NFTs. Every time a new NFT would drop, Ethereum gas prices would go through the roof because so many people were trying to run these operations. But you're paying that fee whether the operation passes or not. And it's a bidding, it's an auction. And, we'll probably have talked about this before in a previous episode. If not, we'll talk about it in the future. So fees go through the roof. That becomes a problem with the gas fee situation. This is why they're looking at layer 2s. Cosmos says, whoa, that's way too much.
Yeah.
What if, right? Just hear us out. What if we didn't put the entire, every application on the planet on this one blockchain? What if instead every application was its own blockchain? Now, we realize there's a problem with that. This is all Cosmos speaking, right? We realize this is a problem because with every blockchain you have to decentralize it. You have to have the validators, or if you're going to run proof of work, Cosmos is a proof of stake. It's really sort of like a delegated proof of stake. We realize there's these problems. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to make this framework for a blockchain. So when you're an app developer, the framework's already there. You're going to use the Cosmos SDK, right? And then you can just sort of build the parameters for your app right on chain. So it's called an app chain. So in the Ethereum smart contract type world, you have these decentralized applications or dApps. In the Cosmos SDK world, you have these app chains. Every app is its own chain. And maybe you have a series of apps that all sort of depend on a primary app, but it's like they're all related. It's this ecosystem, right? But then because they all use this base option, they now have an additional option with Cosmos. And you can say, look, I want to be a totally independent chain. I'm going to build it up. I'm going to run my own. So if you've ever used like Binance Smart Chain or KuCoin's chain, a lot of these chains, these are all Cosmos SDK. Binance is an SDK chain, Cosmos chain, Binance Smart Chain.
Oh, wow.
Right? So all of the DeFi stuff that happens, so there's like Binance has like 2 different chains. They have the Binance chain, which is like a Ethereum clone.
Okay.
But nothing really happens on that because it has the same problems Ethereum has.
Yeah.
Then they have the real chain they run, which is Binance Smart Chain, and that's a Cosmos SDK chain. So Binance is actually Cosmos.
I feel like you're blowing my brain right now.
But they've decided because it's sovereign, right? So they're like, we don't want to affiliate with anything Cosmos. They took the Cosmos SDK, they modified it how they want to because it's all open source, and it is what it is for them. But now,
can you tell me what SDK is? You've mentioned it a couple of times.
It's just a framework. Like if you're a developer, you're going to use. There's a lot of different companies that would have like an SDK. If you're using, if I'm going to build an app, and I'm not giving you the actual definition because A, it's off point, and B, I don't remember it. But you can go look it up. But what it is like if I'm building like a app for Android smartphones, there's an SDK, this little kit. It's like a developer kit. I can download that instead of me having to build the whole thing from scratch. It's like, here's your framework. Now just about think of if you built a house. Yeah. And it's like, well, here's your frame. Yeah. Now you got to decide what kind of paneling you want on the wall. Do you want a drywall or do you want this?
Okay,
do you want wood floors or do you want something else?
Okay. Got it.
So that's what Cosmos is. But you and me, we both also build Cosmos off of a Cosmos SDK. But there's a feature, and this is with really the power of Cosmos, right? This is the utility part. What utility does Cosmos offer? There's a switch you can voluntarily turn on in your chain, on your Cosmos SDK, which is called IBC, Inter-Blockchain Channel or something like that. Okay. It's basically a communication channel that allows my app chain to talk to your app chain. So if I want to put Bitcoin to Ethereum, there's no way to do it. Those chains, Bitcoin's blockchain and Ethereum blockchain cannot talk to each other. So you need a bridge. Okay. Which means you have this, at this point, a centralized party that somehow centralized. There's not really any purely Bitcoin to Ethereum decentralized. So I have to basically take my Bitcoin, give it to some custodian who's going to lock it up, and then issue me these wrapped Bitcoin on Ethereum. Right? But my Bitcoin's really sitting with them because Bitcoin doesn't know to wrap itself up. And Ethereum doesn't know how to talk to Bitcoin to be like, well, they put it in this wallet, so therefore we'll issue them a wrapped Bitcoin. So you got to trust this bridge. And bridges during the 2020-22 bull run, that's where almost all the hacks that you heard about happened on bridges. The big ones, those were all bridges. So Cosmos solves this because it's part of the protocol. It's not a third party you have to trust. It's built into the system. Binance at any time, if they haven't written it out of their SDK, they could turn it on, and then they could mostly trustlessly, to my understanding of it, because I don't know the deep tech of it. Binance could turn it on, and you could integrate Binance Smart Chain with the entire Cosmos ecosystem with just a flick without using a bridge, right? It's built into the protocol. And then the other thing that they're about to release, the other part of it, and this is where the Cosmos coin comes into play. Because you don't need the Cosmos coin, which is called Atom. You don't need this at all to do any of the stuff we've talked about. We talked previously in the last one about XRP, how you don't need XRP, the token, to run XRP, the settlement network. You don't need Atom, the coin, to run the Cosmos SDK or the Tendermint consensus protocol. But one of the things, the next implementation that's been worked on is just like we can do the bridging, you can do what's called interchain security. So Binance had, maybe, let's say we like Binance's decentralization and their validator setup. Right? And you're getting ready to start a chain, right? And you don't want to worry about building your own validator set because that's a decentralization problem. It's going to start small. You have to incentivize people to come. Your market cap might not be high enough, so it's going to be easy to manipulate. You're going to have all these building decentralization problems. So instead what you do is once that's turned on, and if Binance turns it on, you can say, look, hey, all you decentralized nodes that validate Binance, we want you to validate us too, and we're going to pay you to validate our blockchain. And then so the day you launch, you're just as decentralized as Binance is because those people are also validating your chain. Right? So you have shared security.
Would that be something that they're automatically linked to, or like they have to opt into validating the new?
The validators have to agree that we're going to validate. We'll opt into that. But so you have a lot of where Atom, the token. So there's the utility of Cosmos SDK. Cosmos SDK has utility, and I think it's been a proven utility. If you follow the app chain idea set, there's utility. I don't like the way Ethereum's designed for my project. I want to use this. There you go. Atom, the coin, right now has zero utility. There is no need for Atom. So right now it's priced at this block height that we announced earlier, and you can't see on screen yet, but if you go to like CoinGecko or whatever, you'll see right now Atom's valued at $8.21.
Okay.
Right? That is pure speculative price because Atom, the token, has no actual utility right now. It has potential future utility. So anybody who owns, and I do own some Cosmos. I said I would disclose.
I own too.
Anybody who owns Cosmos, including myself, you're speculating on future value. There is no utility to it.
So you're hoping that Cosmos brings or builds some utility to that token.
What the banking on? You're banking that eventually, which is supposed to happen this calendar year, I believe. The interchain security I mentioned. That'll be activated and fully ready this year. If you have Cosmos and you stake it, or you're a validator, right? The speculation is once that's turned on, other chains that use Cosmos SDK they can opt into using Atom security. What are they securing right now? Nothing really, because there's nothing on the Atom chain,
Yeah.
the Atom version of Cosmos SDK. Nothing's happening there, right? There's no apps built on top. It's just this thing. So we're securing nothing. But it's secure. That nothingness is secured. But now you start a chain.
Yeah.
You can say, well, they're not securing anything, but it's decentralized. It's one of the most decentralized networks in the whole Cosmos ecosystem, even though it's not securing anything. Hey, y'all, you want to secure me? And we'll say, yeah, sure. And now you, without having to build your own network, can just tap in, and then we'll make money because you'll pay the fees. We'll go to the stakers
of Atom.
Of Atom. That's the utility. I'm providing security for you. Think of it like right now, I started a bank and I have a bank vault, but there's nothing in it.
Yeah.
The bank vault is still secure.
Yeah.
It's just it ain't securing nothing.
Yeah.
But I'm intending that this thing will launch on the greater SDK system, and then people will say, hey, do you mind if we pay you some fees to put our security in your vault? I'm like, yep, sure. We're just going to take a little percentage of everything you put in the vault and split it out in exchange for maintaining the vault security.
And I'm just making sure I'm understanding this correctly. So you're saying that this year, potentially people could be looking to tap into that security?
Yes, once that gets turned on.
Okay.
But again, that's speculation. That's my opinion. It's not financial advice. I'm not saying go buy Cosmos because it's about to blow up.
Yeah. Also, probably, who knows when this
Because the real
episode
question
will air.
becomes, this is the thing about open markets, right?
Yeah.
Right now, if it's priced at $8.22, it's securing nothing. It's just maybe it'll secure something one day. That's going to be its utility. It's securing something now. It's just there's nothing in it. It's the vault. But it's an empty vault that it's securing.
Right.
What's the real value of securing your chain? Is it at a market cap of $2.4 billion worth of security? Maybe not. So the real price, the real actual price value of Atom might really be like $2.
Yeah.
So if you're going to speculate at $8, you could be looking at what? The market hasn't been able to operate to decide yet.
Right, yeah.
So that's what you'd have to look at. But is there potential utility there? Sure. Is there value? Is it worth? Does it offer anything? I think so. Whether it's valuable or not, I have no idea.
So okay. So then when I said Cosmos, what I should have said was Atom.
Well, you, as most people, asked about Atom, yes. But you had no idea what Atom was.
Yeah.
So that's why we had to go through that very long thing, because Atom is Cosmos itself is a very complex architecture. One of the reasons, again, I start everybody at Bitcoin. Because if you don't even understand, Bitcoin's pretty simple, right? It's a ledger that everybody shares. Go back to the beginning of this episode. What is a node, right? It's really simple. Ethereum makes it 100 times more complex.
Yeah.
Depending on how you look at it, Cosmos makes it another tenfold more complex. You know what I mean? Now, is it more efficient? Is it a better system? Maybe, maybe not. Yeah, that's up for people to decide. But they take these different approaches. And if you don't even understand how the basics work, and so you're thinking like, oh, Atom is this thing. And it's like, nah, Atom, the token, has zero usefulness at the moment. Right? But it's prepping because it could end up being there. But the risk is, again, Binance could turn on. They could enable it. If they haven't disabled it in their system yet, they could turn on this, and when the interchain, they could link to them. And the purpose that you think you're spending for Atom
is now squashed.
It could be squashed because the market might decide we'd rather use Binance or Osmos. So Osmos is another token in the Cosmos SDK. It's called Osmo. It's another token in the Cosmos SDK, but this is like the Uniswap of the Cosmos ecosystem. Everybody can decide this is where they want to build their security. And as a risk, if you remember the thing that started this bear market, which was not USDT, Terra. Terra built on the Cosmos SDK.
Oh, yeah?
Terra was a Cosmos SDK token. And we see what happened to that. This is supposed to be $1. It's 1 cent.
Yikes.
Right?
Yeah.
So, risk. But
Yeah.
just because Terra, they just use the software. It's like saying, well, I took iOS operating system, did my own thing with it, and that failed. Does that mean iOS is a failure? No.
Yeah.
It just means what I did with it sucks. Binance is working on it, but, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's Cosmos. I know that was a very long explanation, but you started with a big one.
Yeah, sorry. Well, maybe this next one won't be so.
What's next?
I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but Chiliz, Chiliz.
All right.
I like to call it cheese.
So here's a cool thing too that CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko and all of them do is they break things down to like what are cryptocurrencies or NFTs, what's the sort of market it's in. So you can sort of see that too. Like this is a cryptocurrency, not a DEX, not an NFT, right? Not a layer 1 or layer 2. So it helps sort of categorize it. So let's see, what is Chiliz? I've heard of Chiliz. I think I looked into it at one point, but
It was one
it
of those.
really wasn't for me because I didn't care.
Yeah.
So I moved on. What is the all-time low? The markets.
It was one of those that was being promoted by Coinbase, and like if you took a test, you'd get some free ones.
Well, yeah, but that goes into, this is probably one of the reasons they're getting, at this block height, sued by the SEC because it turns
Coinbase
into, well, like, why did they do that? What's Coinbase's, why should they give you free Chiliz to take a Chiliz test? What good is that for anything? Let's look at.
My assumption was that they just wanted to like get people familiar with other.
26,000 tokens. Why should you be familiar with Chiliz? What's the
Yeah.
It's the same thing you got to ask like when it comes to like the high returns. Again, this is a do your own research thing. It's like, all right, if I stake my token, I get X amount of money. Well, where's that money coming from?
Yeah.
And this isn't just a crypto problem. This is anything. If you're going to put your stored value into something, right, to preserve your wealth, and you're going to get promised interest on top of that,
Yeah.
where is that interest coming from?
Yeah.
Nothing's for free.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure that makes sense. All right, summary. Chiliz is a digital currency for sports and entertainment, powering the world's first blockchain-based fan engagement and rewards platform, Socios. Fans can purchase and trade branded fan tokens, as well as having the ability to participate, influence, and vote in club-focused surveys and polls. Chiliz aims to foster a blockchain ecosystem built for sports and entertainment. So is there value there? Is it useful, in your opinion, just from that summary?
It kind of sounds like just like almost like trading cards or something. Like.
Sort of, but more than cards. Fans can purchase and trade branded fan tokens. So I would assume, let's say we're in Detroit. So let's say the Detroit Pistons, they have fan tokens. Now I can have a Pistons token, and maybe I can have, whoever the star player at the time, maybe I could have their token, and maybe it's a limited token like an NFT, right? Or maybe if I own so many Pistons tokens, I earn tokens by going to games. So I go to a game, I get a token, and that token gives me discounts depending on how many tokens I get, right? I get these discounts on vending or merchandise or whatever. That's maybe one of the mechanics this could do. So is that useful?
I mean, it is if you are a person who like does those things, like goes to maybe concerts or goes to the sporting events. But it's also not saying that that's what it does. It's just like
it's sort of what's saying there. We could look deeper into it, but from this paragraph, I think you can summarize everything you need. Assuming this is true, this is coming from Asari, right? That tells you everything you need to know. I say it has absolute zero usefulness. You do not need a blockchain to do that.
Oh, I see. You're asking if when you need a blockchain to do that.
Well, is it useful? As a crypto, what is it doing as a crypto that you couldn't just do as a a database-driven points reward, like airline miles or any other kind of discount thing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. What makes blockchains useful? I'm a strong believer. The only blockchains are bulky. They're slow. Doing decentralized things by nature are slow and inefficient when it comes to like technology, right? They're great though if you need decentralization, which really means you need censorship resistance, permissionless, immutability, and probably transparency, right? At some level, you need some kind of transparency. If you don't need those things, you probably don't need a blockchain, right? And here's the thing. This is for sports and entertainment.
Right.
Well, is the Detroit Pistons a permissionless, censorship-resistant, immutable, open source franchise?
No.
No. So you go and get these tokens. You got these fan tokens, and the Pistons decide tomorrow, them tokens.
Yeah.
We don't want them anymore.
Yeah.
Your blockchain is going to force them to do, well, I got this token. No. The blockchain itself can't enforce this. Now, what you might want to say, I'm sure what the kickback out here is, well, no, but now I can go to court and say, see, they sold us these tokens. You could do that with reward points off a database.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because at that point, you're saying they offered you a contract that this token would be worth something.
Yeah.
Or when you sign up, this is the whole thing. Well, I forgot the name of them. The first trading card company. The people who made CryptoKitties went and did. I can't think of it. They had like the NBA thing. It was very similar to this. But you had to decide, like, when you got the token, you had to like sign this agreement that says this may or may not be worth anything tomorrow. So why are you doing it in the first place?
Yeah.
This solves zero problems.
Yeah.
Putting it on a blockchain solves zero problems. Now, there could be other issues in that you find solutions for, but the blockchain ain't solving any of them. As long as at the end of the day, this is why I'm like sort of anti-stable coins, right? At the end of the day, if I'm using a stable coin, especially a stable coin that's supposed to be one-to-one backed, so an actual backed stable coin like USDT, USDC, right? Those are backed by dollars in a bank or through some kind of paper backing, like a treasury bond or something, right?
Okay.
At any point, the government could come along and force the bank, close that account.
Yeah.
No, worse, freeze that account.
Yeah.
What good is your tether? The whole premise of tether is that you could exchange it for actual dollars.
Right.
But the U.S. government can always come in and be like, no.
So stable coins require permission.
Backed stable coins. Now, this was the promise of like UST and originally DAI, right? Maker, DAO, and DAI, was that they took two different approaches, but they pegged their tokens to $1 without needing to actually have $1 sitting in a bank account someplace. But we see Tether failed miserably. Every algorithmic, which is what Tether was, or not Tether, was what Terra was.
Yeah.
All of those have pretty much failed miserably.
Yeah.
So that may not be a thing that's possible.
And that was one that didn't have to actually
have dollars in the bank.
Okay.
But that's sort of why it crashed. And then you have DAI, which was an over-collateralized. You needed ETH and over-collateralized it to keep it, but that was so dependent on the price of Ethereum, which is so volatile, they decided to add more assets, and now the controlling asset in the DAI that backs it is a stablecoin that has to be backed by dollars, USDC. So what's the point of DAI? DAI is just a derivative of a backed stablecoin again, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same premise with this. You have to rely on the sports franchise, and unless you're going to tell me that you can force on-chain without any third parties, no governments, no nobody, because this is the point of blockchain. It's supposed to be able to enforce itself.
Yeah.
You can enforce the Pistons to respect, I got this token, now you have to give me this jersey. Or you have to give me some kind of revenue share of ticket sales or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, make them do it.
It's definitely did not cross my mind when I was reading that.
Right. So, no. Based on that alone, I would say Chili's has zero real usefulness. It's just building off a hype. I'm not telling you they're scamming you.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, in my opinion, it has no usefulness. There's going to be a bunch of pissed people one day that aren't going to be able to cash in on whatever they think they have there. No usefulness.
Very interesting. Do we have time for one more, or do we have to wrap it?
Well,
I think the last two might be kind of big
let's do it if you got a quick one.
I don't know. I have Solana and Quant. I could also do Filecoin or Pepe Coin.
Let's do Filecoin. Okay. I know that, and I can give it a quick answer, and then we wrap.
Okay.
All right, so we'll get 3 in. Filecoin. All right, so what is Filecoin? Do you know anything about it?
I know that you mentioned it one time, and I think it was like literally storing files on the blockchain.
That's pretty much it. So there's a system called IPFS we've mentioned briefly before.
Yep.
IPFS, if you're familiar with Amazon Web Servers, right, which is just, I'm not going to explain all that. If you don't know anything else I'm talking about, first go look what AWS or Amazon Web Servers are.
Okay.
That runs the internet today. Once you understand that, imagine that without Amazon, a decentralized Amazon Web Service. We're not talking blockchain. I'm just talking about a decentralized peer-to-peer Amazon Web Service thing. That is what IPFS is.
Okay.
Interplanetary File System, IPFS.
Oh, wow.
All right. So it's Amazon Web Servers without the Amazon, right? But here's the downside of IPFS. If it allows you, I got my computer, I got a file I like. I download a file on my computer and I put it in my IPFS server, right? I don't need anybody's permission to do it, right? It meets all the criteria of like these decentralized systems, but there's no token involved. And it's not a blockchain. I can store it, but I'm the only one who cares about my file, so it's only sitting on my version of IPFS. So there's no redundancy. Right? And there's no secondary proof checking of that I didn't change the file or whatever, because it's just my one file.
Yeah.
But if you find value in it, you could back it up. Now I have at least one redundancy.
Find value in the file?
In the file
Okay.
I'm storing. So maybe it's a song.
Okay.
Now I'm a local artist, right? Or let's take NFTs, for example, right? I don't want to store my NFT on chain because that's too expensive. So I'm going to link in the metadata of the NFT, I'm going to say you can see the original actual file here on this IPFS server. But if it's only on my server, I can change it anytime, right? But if it's on 10,000 different people's computers, there's a lot of redundancy. It's the same file, and it uses hashing, just like with crypto. It uses cryptography, just like all the others, so you know that's the file. It hasn't been modified at all, because once you modify, the hash changes, like your public address.
Is the redundancy good or bad or neither?
Good.
It's because it makes it stronger.
It makes that stronger because you know it's going to be there. More validation. You know it's going to be there. You know you have the real file. So how do I incentivize? If I have this file, how do I incentivize more people to hold it? Because I'm the only one that really thinks it has value, or there's a very small group of people, right?
Yeah.
This is where Filecoin comes in. Filecoin comes in and sits on top of IPFS and says, look, sure, maybe you got a file that, maybe it's a new Drake song, right? What's that AI Drake and Weekend record, right? And people are like, no, we know the labels want to eliminate it, and Drake and the Weeknd want to eliminate it, but we want to see it in a censorship-resistant environment. So a lot of people might have that value, and they'll store that song for free on their computer as part of IPFS, so anybody can download it and access it.
Yeah. Universal
can't force this network to take it down, right? But I'm an independent artist.
Yeah.
I feel my record's just as good, but I don't have that same network of fandom.
Right.
So I need to incentivize people to do it. So what I'll do is say, hey, I'll get some Filecoin. That's how Filecoin basically works. It's like, all right, I'll pay you to store my file. And every time I'll pay you a little to download my file and keep it on. And every time somebody accesses the file, they might pull a piece of it from you. And every time they do that, you'll get paid. So I'm going to pay you to keep it on the computer, and I'm going to pay you every time somebody accesses it.
And so if I want to access it, I probably have to pay a fee, and that's where they're being paid.
Yeah, a fee has to get paid for it. So I would probably be paying the fee as the person who owns the file. Well, you might pay a fee to access it too. Yeah. So, and that fee is paid in the file coin. Mm-hmm. So that's the token. Mm-hmm. So the system is just sort of incentivizes people to store files, right? And then you pay every time you want to access it. And I'm incentivized to store these files that I don't care about. I don't care about the file, but I want the money.
Yeah, that's super interesting. So let's say as like a local artist, maybe I have a song, like you were saying. And do I set how much I'm going to pay each person who stores that file for me?
I don't know if that's how the file coin. Okay. Where I think there's I think it's market demand.
Okay.
But that's generally what it is. And so the question is now, is that useful?
I think so.
I think so too. You know, again, I'm not validating whether Filecoin, which I hold none of. Yeah. I'm not validating whether Filecoin is useful or not. There's been several attempts. Filecoin is the longest running. I think they're the one that's the leading in that. But yeah.
It sounds cool.
Right.
I like it. I think so.
So in concept, yes, there's usefulness into it. Is Filecoin's approach the best approach? I don't know, but I think that's a problem worth solving. Why should we let Amazon determine?
Yeah.
And if Amazon decides, or if the government, because Amazon's a U.S.-based entity, right? If the U.S. government or Amazon independently decide your content isn't worth storing, boom. So if you're an adult entertainment, right? There's a stigma to that.
Yeah.
It's not illegal.
Yeah.
Right? But Amazon's like, there's really server companies, not Amazon to my understanding, but I know there are server companies who won't allow, if you run an adult entertainment site, you can't use their platform. They will deplatform you.
Oh, wow.
Because you run that service. Because their philosophy is, we value a church more than we value you. Yeah. And a church won't use a server if you're on the server, therefore you can't be on the server.
Right. Could Filecoin be like the new, or like a new like YouTube kind of?
Well, there are other coins like Library tries to solve that. So look up Library.
Write that down.
Yeah, because now you're talking about bandwidth. This is storage. Okay. Storage and bandwidth are two different things.
Okay, good to know. I'll write that down too.
Yep. But yeah, there's So things you find value, if you think that's valuable, then yes, that would be the solution.
But they're not the only coin that's trying to solve that problem, I'm assuming.
Filecoin?
Yeah.
No. You just look up storage. Just look up blockchain storage, and you'll see all the coins that have tried or been trying to do it.
Okay.
And some are going to be more centralized, some will be less centralized. Maybe, in your opinion, none of them will be centralized or decentralized. They'll all be centralized.
Yeah.
Or bad tokenomics or something. So, yeah, that's Filecoin.
Okay.
So
cool.
we hit 3.
Perfect.
All right, and we'll link to some resources on all of these. I think this just all aligns under the umbrella of Do Your Own Research too. So we'll link to the Do Your Own Research episode.
Yep.
And you can check us out at The Blockument at theblockument.com. And Twitter, where are we at?
TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Yeah, that's all of them, I believe.
All right. Cool. Hit us up. Ask us questions if you want us to decide if there's usefulness on any of a specific project or protocol. Let us know so we know to cover it.
Yeah, we can look into it together.
All right. And that'll be it. Come for the riches.
Stay for the revolution.
All right.
Peace.